Okay, once again, welcome. I think we will go ahead and begin with our conversation for today. So just want to be sure, for sake of our language channels, we're all in order. So if you are participating today in English, please select the globe icon or the More button at the bottom of your screen, and then look for interpretation and select English. And si va a participar en esta conversación en español, le rogamos
If you're going to participate in this conversation in Spanish, we beg you to select the Spanish interpretation channel, clicking on the globe icon that is in the lower part of your screen and selecting Spanish from the list of channels. If you can't see the icon with the globe, to just click on the three dots where it says More, and then you can select interpretation and in there Spanish.
And as I think of interpretation, I just want to greet and thank Ana Blasquez, who is with us once again to bring this conversation into two languages, English and Spanish. So let us begin. Many familiar faces here for me, but I think perhaps at least one who is new. So I'll just say briefly, hello and welcome. My name is Teresa Blumenstein. I'm the coordinator of the Justice Coalition of Religious, which is a group of 22 NGOs who are advocating in collaboration at the United Nations, as well as bringing together many congregations from around the world to have a stronger and more unified voice in the advocacy and the conversations that happen in the United Nations system. And so, as you all know, we are gathered here today at the end of the first week of two of the 67th Commission on the Status of Women. And this will be one of the less formal spaces that is part of this commission that you'll be part of these 2 weeks. And this is really just a space for this community to come together to share your thoughts and reflections from any and all events or conversations or encounters that you had in some part of this first week of CSW. So to begin with a few moments for thought and inspiration to look back over your week, I would like to share with you a couple pieces of art which were presented to us for CSW by Susan Daly, who is a sister of the Institute of the Blessed Virgin Mary, who is based in Australia. And she created these works based specifically on the theme of CSW, which of course is innovation, technological change, and digital education in relation to gender equality. So I'll just offer you a few moments to take in these two pieces of art. And I'll also offer a very, very brief opening prayer to get us centered in a thoughtful space. To your cross, O God, we come for healing, for you alone can make us whole. We come broken-hearted and broken-spirited, for you alone can make us whole. We come broken in mind or in body, for you alone can make us whole. We come with broken relationships and promises. For you alone can make us whole. We come with broken systems that bind us in structural sin. For you alone can make us whole. To your cross, O God, we come to be made whole. For your love alone can make us like bread, broken for others. Note that was a prayer adapted from one called To Your Cross We Come by David Adam. So to really prompt our exchange today, which we can remain in for as long as we wish, as long as we each have things to share. I have some questions to suggest for your reflection, but again, this is really an open space. So if you have anything you would like to share from your experience this week, you're welcome to do that. You're not restricted in any way by these questions. But if they're helpful to you, some things that we might share with each other are, what did you hear during the first week of CSW that is echoing or that aligns very well with your experience, either in life or ministry? Were there any events or encounters you had this week that particularly moved you? What did you hear that surprised you? What did you learn or hear for the first time? And what do you hope to do or learn in the second week of CSW? Is there any government, organization, or person with whom you hope to connect? So I'll leave these questions on the screen for a few minutes, and why don't we just each take a few minutes to think on these or whatever experiences we've had, and then we'll come back together in just a couple of minutes and share what we wish to share. Okay, so I invite you back from your reflection. Once again, these are some questions we might respond to, but all comments and reflections from the first week of CSW are very welcome in this space. So I will, since we do have a few familiar friends and a few new friends with us, I will ask you, as you share any reflection you want to share, that you each please begin by briefly just introducing yourself by name, by congregation or NGO, whatever your affiliation is, and maybe say where you are originally from in the world, and if it's different, where you are now. Just so we can know where each other is coming from in multiple aspects of our perspective. And with that, I will just open the floor. We have a very nice number for conversation, so we don't need to do too much in terms of structure and order and classroom style management. So I think I'll just invite you all, as you feel moved, if there's something you wish to share, just go ahead and unmute yourself and respond to the group. And hopefully we can try to imagine we're just sitting across the table from each other with a cup of tea.
Teresa, I'm going to come in first.
Great.
Just for the simple reason that I won't be able to stay too long. But just, I'm Anne-Marie Quinn, and I'm the Executive Director of International Presentation Association, but I reside in Dublin, Ireland. So that's where I am at the moment. But I'm very tuned in to CSW whenever I can in last week and into the coming week. But I'm a little bit disadvantaged. I know colleagues like Winifred Doherty and many other NGOs, Beth, and are there on the ground and very present at the event. But just, I suppose, one thing struck me in the last week. I have tried to tune in, maybe not this day all the time because of my time zone here, but to the parallel events. And two that I attended, two that I want to mention that tuned into during the week. And one was the one organized by Winifred's congregation, and Winifred herself organized it. It was on girls and women impacting the digital revolution. I really was in awe at the young people, the young girls. I felt really they are the voice of the future. They are the advocacy people of the future. And what we, maybe older wisdom, I'm speaking for myself, person can do for younger people is to encourage them and to give them the opportunity as Winifred did. I saw it's such, over the 5 years I've been working in my position, I saw a change. Now, we went through some of those years mainly online, but the young people, I was absolutely in awe of their commitment and their understanding. And so I just want to say that too. And I also want to compliment Winifred for handing over to these young people, empowering them. And she's always a very encouraging woman. So thank you. The other event I also want to speak about, it was in the same vein of young adults. It was Beth had an event which was on, just the name won't come to me, but reading, let us read. And again, it was the young women that were in the Ursuline Academy who were responding to the wonderful speaker coming from Egypt. And again, I thought that was an amazing way of interacting, and also admiration of these young people, and huge admiration for the founder of that project, which, as she said, it costs nothing, only that we volunteers across the world and the way it has spread, So they were just two aspects. I just saw the future, in our young people. And for my part, at this stage of my life, it is to encourage all these young people and young NGOs coming up in the UN at the moment. So that's my contribution at this time. If I slip away, it won't be for lack of interest, but I have another appointment because it's Saturday afternoon here. Thank you, Teresa.
Of course.
Thank you for all you do. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for being here, Anne-Marie, as long as you can. And of course, two of you were specifically named there as organizers of events that were important to Anne-Marie. So if either of you wants to add anything or respond in any way, I especially encourage you. But again, the floor is open. Yes, please go ahead, Winifred.
Thank you very much, Teresa, for providing the space this morning. And thank you to all who are present, because we make the community. And to Anne-Marie, look, Anne-Marie, I want to say, I learned years ago from the Presentation Sisters, and when Fatima was here as the NGO representative, about the importance of bringing young people. And she brought young people, and we weren't in parallel events. We were inside in the UN with the member states presenting. And I remember moderating a panel, and I had two girls from Africa, one on each side of me. And so in some senses, that's where I learned about the power of girls' voice. And so, you've done it all the years. All educators have been doing it all the years. So thank you. I think for me, as I look at the week that has been, the week that was, there's, I found a great sense of hope on the morning of consultation day, the Sunday morning. I think the tone was set very well, and I had this kind of feeling we're on the cusp of something new. So that was my Sunday, and I enjoyed that. But then as the week went through, particularly I think it was a Tuesday, as I listened to prime ministers and presidents and parliamentarians, women parliamentarians, I was distressed at how they are experiencing such victimization and harassment and attack via the internet and other ways because of their leadership. And I think actually the Irish Mission had an event on Monday at 11:30, and I attended that online. And there was a woman parliamentarian from, I think it was Uganda. And I mean, she left nothing to the imagination as to how she was treated and the perceptions that people hold of her. And for those that maybe didn't hear, like she was saying, like the men look at her as getting into that position because she gave sexual favors to other men who now were rewarding her with a little bit of power. There's something, and like when I stop and I think that like here we are in the member states arena, and that no man, nobody in all of this power hierarchy can say stop. So I heard it then again on Tuesday, and as I say, I was distressed about it. And then I went from that to reflecting with the Baha'i community on their statement. And that took me to a whole other moment in my life, where, of course, the Baha'i always present the highest ideals and the highest values. And so, you know, there was a line about, you know, when will we move to accepting humanity's wisdom in our living with each other and with the planet? And so there was really deep discussion around values and living values and being committed to values, which again was a great moment of, you know, optimism. And then another event I attended was on Wednesday evening in the United Nations at 6:30 in the evening, where the whole issue of human trafficking was being addressed. And so it was almost like a seesaw, like 1 minute you were up and the next minute you were down. And I think all the big wigs were on the panel, you know, OECD and Kevin Hyland and this great person and that great person. And certainly we're all doing our part for human trafficking, to end human trafficking. And yet the UNODC report is saying, look, girls have been more vulnerable than ever and are being trafficked in increasing numbers. And so, you know, as I say, it was like a seesaw up and down. And somewhere then, I think yesterday, Beth and myself shared a platform when we were with the Brahma Kumaris group. And again, here we were in a different mode, a reflective mode, where women of huge significance were sharing the depth of their pain and their resurrection. It wasn't just one, it was both were held. And it's when you read there about the power of the cross, Teresa, like it's almost, maybe it's something I forget, that like these two moments are one. And so like that brings me to, you know, yesterday, of course, those girls around the world and all girls around the world, they have so much to say. And I think so much, I love the ones from Madagascar, you know, my father says no phone in this house, and, you know, and then what age will I be when I get it? You know, there's something really genuine in their struggle. And, you know, we had a girl in Latin America, I don't know how she pulled it off in the end. Her father didn't want her to go on, you know, just before it happened. So, you know, they're the struggles that these girl activists in the heart of their families are confronting. And I have no doubt that they're strengthened by being given the platform to speak and present themselves. And then that brings me to my last point, where yesterday then Lindsay and Janet were trying to work on the distressing news that they heard, that no girls are not going to be mentioned in any significant way in the document. Why? Because unfortunately for all of us here, the Holy See, among others, you know, Iran and Islamic countries generally, and Russia, we put Russia in there, feel that like a girl, a child, has no voice. They do what their parents say. And so that's distressing. And so trying to kind of say, who do we get after in the member states? What do we say? It's impossible to get even a telephone answered these days, and we know why. So between trying to target them on Twitter and write to the mission and try and get an email address and use whatever, wherever to put in, yes, yes, we want girls, we want girls, we want girls' voice, girls' agency, girls to be recognized, because gender equality will never happen if it doesn't happen with the girls. So that's my CSW week. It has been tiring in the sense, of course, for everybody. You know, you start earlier in the morning and you end later at night. And then there's all the little snippets then in between. I didn't have so many cups of coffee this year for whatever reason. And I'll give you one funny story then. I was in the Vienna Cafe walking around to see who I might spot. And so I saw, oh, I said, that's the guy from Ireland, Roderick O'Gorman, the minister that's over. Yeah. And so I took out my phone to check his photograph, and I said, yeah, that's him, because I don't know him. I said, that's him. So I sat in the background and I waited 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. And so the conversation eventually ended. And he got up to leave. And of course I was after him, you know, and I said, oh, Roderick, you know, you came from Ireland. And he looked at me as if I had 5 heads. And he said, who, what? And so he wasn't from Ireland at all. He was a twin. As I stood in front of him, I said, your tie is a different color.
Stop.
That's my
how funny.
He was from Northumberland. So I got an invite to Northumberland.
Oh, that's too funny.
Here, you know, really trimmed up beard, same features, you know, same build, everything.
And let that be the lesson. We're all really more alike than we are unalike the world over.
Are also the lesson that many men in suits do tend to look alike. Although, Winifred, I must have had your energy with me on International Women's Day itself, because I got to meet Fergal, the new Irish ambassador, and he's very friendly. Mm-hmm. He said he wanted to come see our offices. I almost fell over. You could have knocked me down with a feather. It's the first time any diplomat has ever said that to me. And if he only knew that, you know, our office was about room enough for, you know, 3 desks and 3 chairs and a bookcase, you know. But I'll try and get him to come over to the J-Corps office and meet with several of us, perhaps after CSW. We can chat about that and the situation with girls, which I agree with you is incredibly distressing. And I wanted to ask people about, and especially you, Winifred, your thoughts about, do we just continue over Twitter to go after them and see who maybe we can get? Janet had texted me that if we could get some people from like the EU or Belgium maybe to, you know, try and speak up, because it's the usual people. Iran, Saudi Arabia, the Holy See are the ones blocking, but, you know, the EU, UK, US, the Buenos Aires group, Belgium are quiet. So if anyone has a contact there, she thinks that might be a good thing. I don't know. But anyway, I wanted to just say hello and special welcome to Becky from the UK, who's with us, hopefully at a good time for her. It's great that you're here, Becky. Thank you. Hello, everybody. Wave to Becky. She's one of our co-members in the UK. And the disappointments were that we had a lovely young teacher from Pakistan who was all set to come, but she couldn't get a visa. But we had a fabulous teen orientation, full of technological glitches, but, you know, we learned so much trying to do things in this hybrid manner. And a deep public thanks to you, Winifred, for coming in virtually to speak with the lead educators, the teachers, the parents, the chaperones. Everyone appreciated your words. and it's funny, we had to switch locations. They could hear you fine in the auditorium, but not in the room where we were meeting because my computer, I don't know, had issues. But we all just got up and moved to the auditorium. So sometimes you just have to vote with your feet and go where you can hear your keynote speaker. And it worked out great. And that way even more people could hear you, because then the girls heard you as they were filtering back into the room. And, you know, there's so much work to be done. That's the message I think I got from this week. Oh, and for me personally, it was very fulfilling because I ended up in several of the same spaces, either virtually or in person, as Winifred Doherty. So that tells me that I'm finally learning how to do this job well. And the one thing, I wanted to ask Winifred, the program that the Irish embassy did on Monday, I was wondering if that one was recorded, because I had hoped to get that and I didn't make it. And I'm just hoping, Teresa, maybe there might be some way through JCOR for us to share all of the great recorded sessions with each other. And just to hang on to it as a future resource, so that we can go back to the ones that were recorded and lift up the moments. Because as part of the International Women's Day on Wednesday, about halfway through, this is the UN celebration of International Women's Day, we had this young 17-year-old woman come in and do a version of the Rise Up song in such a fabulous way that I had never heard before. And that's something I would love to share with our delegation. I can't believe it. I'm just crazed. We had an in-person delegation of 20 people this past week and a virtual delegation of 24. And the virtual delegation, I think, is engaging much less because it is still difficult to get all the buttons right and get in the right place at the right time. But we've had people, you know, trying their best to engage. So I'm hoping we can capture some of this beauty and then continue to share it throughout the year. Thank you.
Can I speak? Can you hear me with these little doodads on?
Yes,
okay.
Loud and clear,
okay.
Becky. Please
you've
go ahead.
got them on as well. Well, thank you. Thank you for calling my name. I felt like Samuel there, but never mind. I've done my best to attend things, and I'm going to come back to this at the very end of what I have to say here now, because of my own inabilities to deal with the technology. But I immediately set off good with the opening ceremony, which always is thrilling if you sit there and it was Sunday, wasn't it? And watch the chat and people introduce themselves, and they are absolutely from all over the world. And that always gives me hope, because I don't want to have to be looking to the Western Europe or the United States. So anybody else, I'm very interested in their appearance. And then I did get to Dr. Rana's Ajani's on Wednesday for International Women's Day, and that was absolutely thrilling and so inspirational, and not least some of the clips and the video clips from Syria in the camps were just quite moving, incredibly moving, but there's still this impetus there to carry on with learning to read, enjoying reading. And what gives me hope, hearing all this about the girls being left out, and of course the continual worldwide issue with trafficking, is that I feel like the young people, the young women, they are so already embedded in technology. Kids, you know, they start out with their tablets and all this paraphernalia that if they can just get a handle on it, and I'm sure they will, it will be really groundbreaking, hopefully, for the world and for the role of women in it. My goal for this next week is to maybe get better and to maybe master not master, that's the wrong word, get a grip of the WOVA app and to get to places on time. So thank you very much, and all the best to all of you. I'm in London, England, originally not from London, England, as you can tell. But anyway, all the best.
Yes, please, Michelle. You're muted, Michelle.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, I got you. I unmuted you. You're good now.
I'm so sorry. I was not able last week to follow everything because I had a very bad cold. And I did the most I could, but till now it's not very, it's not totally okay. But yes, I was very surprised because I don't know too much the Secretary General, but his words touched me very deeply at the beginning of the CSW. And of course, some of them I tried to find, you know, the whole text of it. But I just found some sentences. But what I really, you know, make an impact in my mind is that the Commission of the Statue of Women is a dynamo and catalyst for the transformation. And the transformation, I'm not sure what it means exactly, but I did it for myself, a transformation, I think, of the world. So it's a question of, you know, transformation of the world. And I really, really try to introduce that and to put that in my mind, because there's so many things to do at this point. And certainly transformation is the word, the very strong word, but important word that we this past week, the most I could follow, you know, on the screen. And I went to some meetings, not all, because I was overwhelmed in the beginning. I did not even know where to give my head. So many things. Try to go with what I like the most. And but after I was not totally okay, you know. So, but nevertheless, and also, you know, the side event. I was present there with I was with Beth sponsoring that, but you know, Beth was the manager of the of the electronic and everything. So I was there, you know, to attend in the school, in the academy of Saint Ursula. And certainly, you know, Rana, you know, she brought me in early years when also I was working in camps and everything, you know, and went to see this dance. And I was also in Jordan, so it was like, you know, oh my God, where I am here. And it's true, you know, nothing really changed at that time, and that is some 20-25 years ago. So we are still there, you know, and we so much to say. I have all these pictures in front of me and in my boxes there of what I live there. So it's still now the same. When I go, for example, to a presentation on migration and everything, and everybody talk about the migration today in Venezuela, in Congo, in everywhere in the world, but nobody says a word about what these Palestinians are suffering. And you know, most of the time I speak up, you know, I say, hey, nobody talk about the Palestinian, you know, until now they are there. And Rana is in somebody from this, you know, origin, you know, these camps and etc. And look, you know, I was really impressed, you know, by the way she was dealing with that. And they say, if she was able to do that, I think it was very encouraging for the young people there around to say, oh, we can do the same, you know, we can overcome, we can do something, etc. So for me, the most I could, you know, I missed the Winifred presentation that it was in my calendar, but I could not make it. Really, I was not in good shape. So I planned this week, you know, to have to make a very serious agenda, you know, schedule, and continue, you know, to do this second week in a better manner, to integrate a little bit more what I would like to, you know, for this CSW. And thank you so much, Teresa, to put this meeting together. Really, you know, I appreciate it so much. And thank you to all of you.
Yes, Rita, please go ahead.
Good morning to every one of you, and of course, good afternoon, good evening to whoever is present here from different parts of the world. I want to say that what I could find an echo in my heart in the life and experiences that I have had in my ministry was the power of women. I just couldn't believe when I saw that the General Assembly, I mean, the first the opening of the not the opening, yes, the opening, but I think the most I wasn't able to attend that in person, but the one of the International Day of Women. I felt that, you know, to hear different voices of women and girls, because there was singing, there was you know, women, girls, and I think the echo I felt also was the leadership that women and girls are taking in the world today. And of course, need to take more and more so that there's that gender equality in our world. The events that I attended and I was very much moved by, one was definitely what I witnessed yesterday, Winifred's, the thing of girls impacted by technology. And what I again felt that, as Winifred was also speaking in her sharing, that we need to encourage girls today and that they can do a better job, maybe even better than us as adults. And once they're given the opportunity, they're given the encouragement that they need. Surely today I feel more and more our girls can really, they are the future of the world, as I believe. And what surprised me is, I think so many of these events that were conducted, I mean, that women are capable, they are strong, they feel more and more what is, you know, like the urgency of really doing something, because when they do, they do a job they do well, they are committed, and they can really lead the world. And so that's what I felt more and more as I was attending the different events, both side events and parallel events. This was my experience. And what I hope for is that we really take this seriously, that the world really recognizes that women have the power and they are capable, they can lead the world, and they can make a big difference to our world situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Rita. Anyone else who would like to respond or add on to all of the great feedback comments that we've heard from each other today?
I'll just add a word, and I apologize. I'm having some video issues, so I'm not able to show it at the moment. I show my face. Just to add, I've I have had, a little bit like Michelle, a very scattered week because of having a cataract surgery in the middle of it, which doesn't do well with International Women's Day. But I have been able to attend a few sessions on before and also yesterday. I just mentioned one thing, and I would resonate with much of what you said. Thank you, Winifred, for sharing those links too, because it will enable some of us to be at what we were not able to be at physically. I would like to just mention one yesterday that surprised me. I was at the Salvation Army early in the morning, and it was a very small group, but a wonderful insight into media mattering for women. And there was a journalist from Sierra Leone, a Sierra Leonean woman journalist. That would be unusual, wouldn't it? There was a man, he for she, who was from Mali, and the focus was on reaching the women who are most difficult to reach, the last mile, not just the girl, but the women and girls in the last mile. And I was very impressed and touched and challenged by how in that event, there was a Zimbabwean woman as well. And of course, I'm biased because I'm originally from Zimbabwe and was delighted that she was so articulate too. But I was very struck by how this powerful stories that are being told by women in the communities at local level, if given the chance, can be picked up by journalists, picked up in some beautiful way and shared, that it both empowers and challenges for change. And she gave some incredible stories related to violence, gender-based violence, FGM, etc., and how chiefs and local leaders had been touched and become champions because of the way of using stories well. So I think there was a real learning for me there, and I was delighted to see they had focused on the African continent and context, and it challenged me to say, how can we better bring those grassroots stories in ways that are impactful locally in the community, nationally, and then globally. So that's just one little thing that I share. But thank you all, and hopefully I'll have my video sorted out by next week.
Thank you, Veronica. I'm glad all has gone well and that you could be with us even in voice today. We look forward to seeing you.
Thank you.
Again, maybe next week if you can make it, but no pressure.
Thank you. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to share a comment or reflection or response to others in the group?
I just wanted to respond to Veronica. First of all, to say, Veronica, I'm grateful to hear your surgery went well, and I wish you happy recovery. And secondly, to say, I look forward to collaborating with people in J-Corps, because as I understand it, anyway, that's the purpose of J-Corps, which is to bring the voices from the last mile, bring the voices from the grassroots. Somehow, if I can never hear back from this young teacher who was denied a visa, get the voices of her girls. Even somehow through translation, get the voices of the young girls that our sisters work with in Lahore, Pakistan, who don't even speak English, they speak Urdu. But how can we get, if there's someone willing to translate those voices from Urdu into English, how do we get their reality heard at the UN? So I just wanted to put it out there that I look forward to working with y'all in the future to bring the voices, and then to continue to learn from Winifred about the advocacy pieces and how we And the fact, Winifred, that you were lying in wait for that wonderful diplomat who wasn't the Irish guy, but you know, that's the strategy, is as I could just see you. You were there with your clipboard, with your backpack on, you were ready in that Vienna cafe, because you know, that's sometimes the way we can exert influence, is to catch people in the in-between, right, in the gray space.
Just to add to what Beth said, always the effectiveness of advocacy is in the person-to-person relationship. I'm convinced about that. Yes, you use Twitter. Well, I'm more out of frustration with them because I can't access them. And sending the stuff to the mission, usually it goes into the basket. Unless you follow up very quickly with a phone call to say you sent it, and then they'll say send it again, and there is a chance it'll be printed out and maybe go to the right person. So it's always a struggle. It's never you know, an easy option. And so when we build relationships with member states, it's how to nurture those relationships, involve them, collaborate with them, and at the same time urge them to consider what we're considering as the advocacy points that are necessary for whatever we're advocating on. Thank you.
Yes, please, Margaret.
Yes, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm in Kenya and I'm in a certain village where connections have not been easy. So when it comes to attending most of these events, sometimes I go to the end of it, sometimes I didn't go through at all. And today it has been a blessing because the whole day I've been timing to see how I can get in. So the few maybe events I experienced halfway or almost ending or nothing, but I was really struck by this area of digital world and how it gave me the sense of we are in very different worlds. When I think of what people are talking about, digital world, innovation, and so on, and look at my own area where I'm coming from, I'm seated in a village where I even some children are passing by and like, what is she doing? What is talking? Some come nearby and look at the screen and they're looking in and saying, what is that? So it is just like in a very different world. Some children have never even seen a computer. So in that sense of being part of it and looking at it, it was like with wonder, wow, we are living in a different world. And when shall we get there where people are talking about digital innovation, all that? But I had a sense of hope when I saw quite a number of women. I feel they are empowered, and especially when we had the opening talk, I saw so many women presenting, and I was so happy that really things are happening, even though not in the whole world in the same way, but things are happening. And if there's a way of bringing the rest of the world along, things can happen also here. And I attended another session where I had one of the Kenyans talking about violence to women and also an Afghanistan woman. And I realized also, wow, we are here, but I looked at what Afghanistan women are undergoing. I said, wow, that is really horrible. From the sense of government is not allowing them for education and so on. Then I looked, yes, here they could be, not that we are not being allowed, means are not there. But the other side could have means, but they're not allowed to go into school. And yeah, I felt throughout the week, it was colored by my not being able to connect, even where I am right now. But I'm happy that I can connect a bit, and I appreciate that I'm getting a bit of what is happening, whatever I'm missing. Thank you for the links, and I hope I will connect. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Also glad you could connect today, Margaret. Always glad to have our community stretched across an ocean.
Yes.
And a continent as well.
Thank you.
And I think I'll also come in there on a few points that have been raised by others in the group, to say, there's kind of this, what Winifred described, highs and lows that kind of all converge and wash over us moment by moment in a conference like this. And part of that does come from the simultaneous advantage of technology, as well as kind of the inequality that becomes very obvious when it comes to digital access. And I think one of the most striking numbers that I heard in all of the facts that came my way this week was that I think the global figures for digital connection, which I believe they were speaking specifically about access to internet, internet is reaching just exactly about one third of women, girls in the world, and about 48% of men and boys, which at first, the first thing you notice, right, is the difference between those two numbers, which is obviously presenting a pathway to greater inequalities in so many other ways. But the other piece that struck me was just that both of those numbers seemed so low to me, so much lower than I would have estimated if someone asked me on the street to guess at the global number. And so part of that feels a disappointment. We've come so far in terms of our ability to communicate, and we were given such a push by the pandemic to get more people really active who do have access. But still 33, only 1 out of 3 women and girls having access to the conversation, because as many people mentioned, Winifred, you brought up a young girl who wasn't sure even at the last moment if she was going to be given permission to participate from a parent, or Margaret being able to join us from Kenya at a conference that's happening in New York. These are amazing stories, and there are many of them. So when you think, well, that's 1 in 3 women that now technically have access to a conference that's happening at the United Nations, that number is so much bigger than it ever was before. But then, of course, it's up to us to who have the kind of more experience and a firmer grasp on how the mechanism works and how the connection is made. We have a lot of work to do to make sure that gap is being bridged, as others mentioned, to carry that over the last mile, to get inside the walls of the UN or into conversation with a diplomat. If you can't be waiting for them or someone who looks like them in a cafe. So that's, strikes me as a responsibility that we have. And also, I think I heard the concept of hope coming up a lot for us. And I think, to me, like the youngest people who are participating in these conversations, I think part of the reason that their voice is so refreshing, people always talk about the energy of youth, the passion of youth. But I think what underlies that energy is really a special kind of faith and hope that another world is possible, that life will not remain indefinitely as it is. And I think more in youth, you'll see this idea that it's inevitable that another world will happen. It's not just that it can be done. It's not just that it's possible, but it's definitely happening. There's a certainty there, which is, maybe what was being spoken of in the biblical text about, having faith like children. It's not meant to be a small faith. It's not a faith that is simplistic. It's just one that's especially powerful. There's a special element of certainty to it that I think the rest of us can really draw a lot of strength and energy and encouragement from. And I recently read a piece of an obituary of someone, Thomas Cornell, I think is his last name, who was very active in the Catholic worker movement in the United States, and wrote for his obituary that he was a good friend of Dorothy Day, and thought that she would respond to the state of the world today by saying that we have a duty to hope. And I think, especially as a community with a faith base, as those in this room have, I think there's even an extra layer of duty there, not only to kind of retain hope for ourselves and continue on in presenting this vision of the new world, of the kingdom of God, of the reign of justice. It's not only to maintain that for ourselves and keep at our work because we have that hope for ourselves, but really to this idea of restoring faith, restoring hope for those who have kind of dismissed that we could have a world without war. To some people, that's a ridiculous notion at this point, that we could have a world where everyone actually is connected digitally. To some people, that's ridiculous, that we could have a world without poverty. And so we have to, in addition to rejecting, the idea that it's impossible, need to bring back to those who have kind of dismissed it altogether and no longer believe it's possible. I think that's kind of where faith leadership comes into the whole equation. And again, coming back to that phrase, faith like children, even we need that encouragement sometimes too. So the more that we can partner with youth and children in keeping our own faith at its highest level, I think that's the energy that we're all feeling from the girls' participation in this. So another reason to keep at this particular point of concern, that of course, girls do have agency and girls do have thoughts to share and do and can make decisions, do have insights worth hearing, and of course should not be left out of any global planning or thought about what the next version of our world could be. Of course we want young people in that conversation. Frankly, the idea that they would be excluded, to me, is the ridiculous.
Thank you.
There anyone else that would like to come in, add anything, respond in any way while we're here together today? Okay. In that case, I'm putting one more pair. Well, it's really one link, but I'm putting it in twice with an English and Spanish heading, just to the virtual exhibit booth for the Justice Coalition of Religious, which is where you can find all of the events that we'll be offering in the second half of CSW, which will include regional conversations. We'll have one for Asia Pacific, one for North America and Europe, one for Africa, and one for Latin America and the Caribbean. And in each of these will just be kind of conversations open to anyone from those regions who wants to reflect together on what are the biggest concerns related to gender or to women and girls in their part of the world, and where have they seen some progress or small victories for women and girls. So just hoping to, again, get more voices in the room, gather more input, help inform those of us who are here at the UN all the time. And of course, help us teach each other. We're all teachers and students in this UN school. So if you have any interest in participating in one of those or multiple of those regional conversations, you're most welcome to. And the links to those will be in our exhibit booth, along with a few other offerings from the member organizations of JCOR. So please give our page a visit and select under our organization description, click see more, so that you can see kind of our whole calendar and list of details that are there. And we'll also meet in this same exact way next Saturday to kind of debrief the entire closing week experience. But we will meet, it will be 1 hour later for those who are not in North America, because the time is shifting in North America. So if you're in New York, it will be starting 9 a.m. next week instead of 8. For everyone else, same time next week.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Teresa.
Thank you.
And is it tomorrow that we spring forward? Is tomorrow the day?
Well,
It's technically 2 a.m. 2 a.m. on the 12th is technically when they do it. Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay. So I will just, go ahead, Beth.
I was just going to ask Michelle if you could stay on, because I went downstairs to get some coffee, because unlike Winifred, I've been surviving on coffee all week. That's the way I've been able to do 2 delegations, but I missed what you said, and I would love to hear what you said. So if you have a minute, I wanted to ask you to stay on afterwards so we could connect. Okay, sorry, back to you, Teresa.
That's all right. Good moment to grab someone for that. And so I'm just going to send us forth again with a very, very brief word of prayer as we head into our second half of CSW. God, we look around us and we see that we are surely standing in the eye of a storm. The road to a world of gender justice stretches out too long before us. And yet, there is no other way forward but to respond with humility, to love generously, to laugh out loud with delight in your presence, and to rejoice in the eye of the storm. Help us to blaze a clear path forward, especially for the women and girls who will come after us. Strengthen our hearts and hands to do the work that hope requires. Amen. And all the best to you in the
Amen.
week to come.
Thank you. Amen.
Beautiful prayer, Teresa. Can you send it to us?
Sure.
I'd like to have it. Yeah.
Sure, would be happy
That's
to.
lovely. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye
Thanks
bye.
all for
the
being
rest
here.
of the weekend.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yes.
Bye.
And thanks
And-
again, Anna, for interpretation.
And Teresa, can you share the artwork and who the artist is again with us? That's beautiful stuff.
Yes, so it's Susan Daly, and it's also in our exhibit booth.
Ah, lovely. Oh, good use of the exhibit booth.
Mhm.
And I don't know if Kim and Marjorie and Becky are still on. But if y'all could stay on a moment, do you mind,
Yes.
Teresa? Y'all chat.
Sure,
the-
yeah, I'm just going to stop the recording and of course, Anna, you're we're finished, Anna, so you're free to go. Thank you so much. And
Actually, can I say something? I was having trouble with my technology.
yes, go
couldn't
ahead,
get
Kim, please.
Avatar background. I don't know what happened. But anyway, and Beth, I want to call you out because one of the things I was thinking about as we were having the discussion today is the women that have broken through small barriers or big barriers and in their own way. And Beth was an engineer. She got her her bachelor's in engineering.
Oh.
And she told me a story about being looked upon as less because she was a woman, and like, you can't do this. You can't have the authority to say that what we're supposed to be doing with our lighting or what have you. But she was breaking through the glass ceiling, and maybe, Beth, you didn't even know that you were doing so. I don't know. But it's inspiring, like women and girls who do have the opportunity to break out. They could be seen and say, yeah, that is possible. And that's like the ripple effect for other women and girls to see that, yes, it's a possibility for women to get into these male dominated professions. So, I mean, that's what was just on my mind throughout this discussion today.
Well,
Thanks.
thank you.
Can I just say quickly, it's good to see you, Kim, as well. So
You too, Rebecca.
Hope you're feeling better.
Oh,
anyway, I distract myself because I feel like I am being Eeyore today. I mean, I've been Eeyore all week, and if you know Eeyore, he's just sitting there, this little donkey with a cloud over his head. So aside from that, the thing is, for me, dismantling, breaking through patriarchy is about like trying to dismantle capitalism. So that's why my cloud just keeps bigger and bigger and bigger. And then it just rains. And then I have to see people like you all. I'm thinking, oh, listen to them. And they've been able to get on the technology, which I'm not always able to do, or on the right day. I tried to get on last night at 8 o'clock because I thought that was what something was. Anyway, that's enough for me. That's enough.
Yeah. Well, we're glad for your Eeyore presence with us, Becky, because we need the realism as well as the idealism. We need both and. And I just want to lift up the fact that Teresa is also an engineer, trained as an engineer at Notre Dame, mechanical engineer. I only worked in that field, or chemical. Oh, sorry, not mechanical, chemical. That's even more complicated. My goodness, that's intense. So, well, no wonder you like to put new concoctions together. That's good. But I only worked in that field for like 9 months. And I'll be honest, till the patriarchy kind of chased me away. I'm like, life is too short. Why is this thing a pain in my butt, a barrier to my progress? Let's go study theology. And I was so naive. I thought I could just get a master's in theology and we would just whip this little patriarchy thing into line.
Oh, yeah.
But I did want to lift up, and this is something we can hopefully get more engaged in here at the UN. There's this group, Gender Equity Reconciliation International, GERI, and it's www.grworld.org. I don't know, Teresa, if you could put that in the chat for people, www.grworld.org. But they only work in about 10 countries so far. And they deal with small numbers of people, but they do really amazing work bringing together women, men, people of all genders to do our gender work. And the room I was sitting in yesterday with Winifred, the gathering created by the Brahma Kumari, as they're a group led mainly by women, and they come out of the Hindu tradition. And it was one of those, events on the margins of CSW, invitation only, in their space. But people shared from the heart. And that's what we do in GERI. And to be in spaces where it's safe for men to share how patriarchy really sucks for them. It's an honor and a privilege to take part in that work, really. So I would encourage anyone to look them up. They do online work and online trainings as well as real time. If you're going to work with them real time, you have to commit to a 3-day event because they say it takes that long to build the trust. And I think they're right, but it's really wonderful work. So I hope we can really bring them more to the UN. I think they're doing a program next Friday. I'll have to look that up and share it with people.
Great.
Yeah, but anyway, you know, you're right, Becky, it's a lot. It's overwhelming. And Michelle, I just wanted to hear more from you, because like I said, I had to pop down and get some coffee before it was gone, and it was almost gone. But I remember what it was like my first year and just how overwhelming it was. It was like trying to take a drink out of a fire hose. And I just also wanted to ask you, you know, I'm hoping you're taking good notes about what you're seeing about how we organize for things, because I need to put together a bunch of how-to lists, right? So that'll help all of us in the future. And now that we have J-Core, we have amazing work with Teresa and what Katie's doing with
Katie. Yeah.
Yeah, we need to capture that for the future.
Yes. No, I did not say too much because I had a very serious cold this week. And really, this is a long time I did not have a cold, so I did not follow too much the CSW. And at the same time, I had 2 presentations for the Daughters of Charity formators in Paris to send at a certain time for translation for all over the world. So I worked night and day, you know, during that particular time. It was past week. So now I think I will be a little bit more, I will say, free to follow the CSW this week a little with a little bit organizing way. And yeah, this is my, I was really impressed by the first day opening at the UN with the Secretary General. And I like this guy. He's very, you know, filled with, I don't know, you know, what you think about, but I like each time he's talking, and he has so many things going on every day. And I don't know, he's traveling all over the place of the world where something happened. I think really, you know, is a good guy. You know? Some people are talking about what he can do better. You know, the world is the world. So I think he does, you know, what he can today. And I really appreciate it also. I repeat, you know, what said, what Rana showed us about the camp, you know, the product of who she is from there, you know, Aleppo, you know, she's definitely, you know, a person of refugee from the camps. You know, if it is Syria, if it is Jordan where she was, and now, you know, she also was, she has some roots in Palestine, and this is a world of trauma, a world of, you know, I can tell you, because I lived there 26 years. It's a life of traumas. And she was able, I think she was so encouraging for these young people. And the way she was presenting that without even anger or even of you know, what bad feelings we can have in order to come from there. No, it was so encouraging. And I think she was really, really the person field of hope that we need today for these young people. I don't know if you feel that. This is what I felt, and I really appreciated everything she said.
Absolutely. It was a fabulous event, very inspiring. And again, always, as before, underscoring the really wonderful intergenerational element of justice work in general, no matter which part of justice you are focused on, and the need to make it a relationship, I guess, that leads from whatever darkness, whatever rain clouds existed in past and present. You know, it's the work of drawing everyone together into a sunnier place that we hope our future will be. So if there's no other comment for the moment, then I will call us to a close for now. And thank you all once again for taking time to be here together today.
Thank you, Teresa.
Thank you. Yes, thank you.